Even in our interconnected world, hundreds of people go missing every day. Some never make it home, and others leave bizarre clues as to where they went. Some of these stories range from odd to insane, and we have found 5 of the most mysterious ones for you. So welcome people to Daily Dope, and let's get started. Number 5. The Beaumont Children. This case is one of the most famous unsolved cases of Australia. And if you are from Australia, I am sure you would be knowing about it. The story dates back to 26th of January 1966. It was a hot summer morning in the suburbs of Adelaide, when the 3 Beaumont children went to their local beach by themselves, after giving a sweet goodbye to their parents, Jim and Nancy Beaumont. But little did they know that it was going to be the last day when they'll be seeing their parents, or maybe the last day they were going to see this beautiful world. It was at around 2 in the noon, when the parents realized that their children were taking too long to return, so they decided to have a check on them. They thought that their children must have forgotten the track of time, as they were too young at that time, the oldest being only 9. But much to their surprise, the children were nowhere to be found on the beach, or in the vicinity of it. At around 5 in the evening, the worried parents went to the police to get further help. Over the next 36 hours, the largest mobilization in Australian history for missing persons was mounted. Police, along with the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and thousands of civilians fanned out in all directions in a desperate search. But the children were nowhere to be found. And even after suspecting dozens of people and criminals, the police have not yet found a major lead. The only thing we know, as described by several witnesses, a tall blonde and thin-faced man, with a suntan complexion of thin and athletic build, aged in his mid-30s was seen with the children, and remains the prime suspect till date. However, there's another theory. A psychic was called for their assist, and if we were to believe him, then the children were not murdered by someone, but were rather gone through a tragic natural death, by drowning in the water. Also, the place where they remained buried, would not be an easy find, as they were buried down in a cave whose entrance was sealed down with rocks. Today, it's been almost 55 years that the tragic case unfolded, and given the situations, I don't think it will be solved for another eternity. Number 4. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. Well, this case is something different from the other cases. You must have heard of a disappeared person, or even a disappeared family, but have you ever heard about a disappeared colony? Well, this is what exactly happened some 400 years ago. At that time, the Englishmen were trying to expand their reach all over the world, and were sending English colonies to set up in different parts of the globe, something they called as the New World. One such colony was the Roanoke colony, today in North America. The colony to Roanoke was headed by John White, an English colonist. He, along with approximately 100 other people, arrived to Roanoke, and they together started building houses and other essentials for their living. After a few months, a girl child named as Virginia Dare took birth in the colony. She was the granddaughter of John White, and became the first English child to be born in America. Just after the birth of Virginia, John White was called to return to England, which he obviously was very reluctant to in the beginning, but finally agreed. And some 3 years later, when White returned to his colony after a long time, to celebrate his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, he found that the colony was abandoned. Not even a single person was found. The only clue that was left were the letters CRO, carved on a nearby tree, and the word Croatoan, written on a nearby post. White and his men continued to search, but never found a trace of the colony. Modern archaeologists studying tree ring data from Virginia found that extreme drought conditions persisted between those 3 years. These conditions undoubtedly contributed to the demise of the so-called lost colony, but where the settlers went after they left Roanoke, still remains a mystery. Number 3. The Lost Pirate. Although this disappearance is rather different from the others in this list, I have still chosen to include this for it has intrigued me on so many levels. Meet the lost pirate, Henry Every. Most of Henry's life has been vaguely and arbitrarily documented, except for the part where he pulls off the biggest heist in the history of all pirate heists. Henry served in the Royal Navy from 1989 to 1990, and was later probably involved in the slave trade in 1993. He was later appointed the first mate on the warship, Charles II, which was later renamed Fancy, and Every was elected as the new captain. And here begins his journey as a pirate. In 1965, Every headed towards north of Madagascar, to the Bab el Mandeb Strait, where 5 other pirate ships, Amity, Portsmouth Adventure, Dolphin, Pearl, and Susanna accompanied Fancy on her great exploit, on attacking and plundering Emperor Aurangzeb's 25-ship fleet returning to India. Two of Aurangzeb's ships, Fateh Muhammad and Gunsway, contained most of the treasure, 50,000 pounds and 600,000 pounds respectively. While Amity, Dolphin and Susanna proved to be useless ships, that either lagged behind the squadron or were destroyed, Fancy, Portsmouth Adventure and Pearl put up a good fight, and pillaged Fateh Muhammad. With loads of luck and a fearless leader on their side, the pirates also managed to plunder Gunsway, thus making Henry Every the most wanted man on earth, with a bounty of 1,000 pounds on his head, and also a general pardon to any pirate who'd turn him in. But Henry wanted more. He and his men didn't want to share this prize with the other pirates, so they tricked them. They loaded their holds with loot and arranged to meet and divide it, but they took off instead. None of the other pirate captains had a chance of catching up with the speedy Fancy, which headed for the lawless Caribbean. Every had fled far away after a few weeks, possibly to New Providence. Even after 24 of his crew members were apprehended, Every eluded capture. He vanished, just like that, with a treasure that had worth $100 million today. While many theories have been proposed, some even as ridiculous as this, that Every was apparently stripped of all his wealth, and later died a poor man. That too so poor, that he was not even able to afford his own funeral. Now, since we know near to nothing about the rest of his life, there is still some chance that his treasure remains buried somewhere, probably in those uncharted territories that he have absolutely no idea about. Number 2. The Story of John Worson. A book titled As an Unfinished Race, written by Ambrose Bierce in 1888, narrates the mysterious yet bizarre disappearance of a shoemaker from Leamington, who went by the name of John Burne Worson. Worson had a little shoe shop on the side of a road. His friends would regard him as an honest and kind man, but similar to the vast majority of the citizens of that time, he was somewhat addicted to drinking, and when he was drunk, he would make foolish arguments, and more often than that, he would brag about his false achievements. On one of the occasions, he bet to a man that he would run all the way to Coventry and back to Warwickshire, covering a distance of roughly 65 kilometers. Worson took to running, and it was going pretty well for him. The man with whom he had made the bet was along with Worson's friends, who were chasing Worson in a wagon close behind him and cheering for him. But from here, the story starts to get mysterious. All of a sudden, Worson tripped over a stone, fell down, and with a loud, terrifying scream, he disappeared into thin air. No one could possibly comprehend what had just happened. After a while, after searching for Worson in vain, the three people who were chasing him came back to Leamington and narrated the whole story to the townsmen. For obvious reasons, they were apprehended by the police on charge of attempted murder, but were later released since no evidence proved them guilty. No one saw Worson ever after that incident, and this story remains one of the most mysterious stories that I had ever heard about. Now, it's time for the theories. Many people duly agree the fact that Worson went into another dimension, while others say he teleported to the other side of the world. But even if it sounds silly, my personal belief is that if this story is true, then Worson must have been a time traveler, who just happened to disappear into the future, and since the man with whom the bet was made in the first place remains unknown, this theory made a little more sense to me. But a lot of people believe that this incident was nothing but pure fiction witnessed only by 3 people, from which I beg to differ, because Ambrose Bierce, who wrote about this incident in his book, also disappeared under mysterious circumstances several years later, and was declared dead in 1914. Was this all a coincidence? Well, I don't think it was. What do you think about this event? Drop down all your thought in the comments section, and I will try to look up into each of your theories. And now, let's proceed to the next section. Number 1. The Missing Billionaire. This one is the most recent case that we have discussed in the whole video. If you think that mysterious disappearances used to happen only in the old times, this one might make you to change your mind. I am talking about the recent missing billionaire Jack Ma. Ma is considered as one of the most vocal billionaires of China, and maybe this quality of him worked against him this time. Recently, media reports were on rise, with Alibaba founder and billionaire Jack Ma, and his reported disappearance in China. Ma has been off the radar ever since he made deprecating remarks against the Chinese regulators in a summit in October 2020, for their efforts in killing innovation in China. According to reports, Ma made critical remarks on China's communist regime, which demands nothing less than a complete and utter obedience. The criticism from Ma came after the regime terminated his planned IPO, on November 3, just 2 days before it was scheduled to trade. Days after, he was summoned in a meeting with Communist Party officials, where he again criticized the Chinese banking systems. Ma vanished after that meeting, and is speculated to go missing. The speculation started to rise up in the news, after Ma was replaced as a judge in his own TV show, known as Africa's Billionaires. He even missed one of the promotional videos, which was scheduled shortly after his criticisms came public. Ma is yet to make a public appearance since October 2020, which is strange, as he is known for his vocal personality. However, nothing conclusive can be said at this time, as there could be other possibilities like, he may be lying low after the suspension of his IPO, and may reappear sometime in future, as reported by a CNBC official. But, I would rather like to hear from you on this thing. What do you think about this one? Drop down your thoughts in the comment section. But just for curiosity, do you know that Ma is not the only Chinese billionaire who disappeared after a spat with the Chinese regime? Yes, you heard it right. Ma is not the first high-profile person to have disappeared out in thin air. There are tons of people like him in China, including some famous actresses, and an Interpol officer. But that's the topic for another video. And with that said, I would like to end this video. Thanks for sticking with me for this long. If you like the content, press that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe this channel if you have not done it till now. See you again in another video. Till then, why not watch these videos?